So 6 months ago, we all experienced the arrival, of COVID-19 in our lives. Some companies were already well adapted for remote life, but most of them had to run to get a webcam and learn quickly how to use Skype, Zoom, Google Meet, whatever. Live conferencing is great, but we can do way more remotely. So we talked a lot about workshops yesterday that you can run remotely, and there's a great product that allows to run workshops fully online, and it's called Mural. So Laila von Alvensleben is the head of culture and collaboration, and she manages a fully distributed team of more than 200 employees on multiple continents across time zones. So when it comes to going fully remote, she has quite an experience. She's based in Lugano, Switzerland, but working worldwide. Please welcome Laila von Alvensleben. Sorry, you have a super hard name to pronounce. I'm sorry. Laila von Alvensleben.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And hi, everybody who's joining itoday today. As Steph said, my last name is really difficult, and I think I don't even know how to pronounce it properly. So you can just refer to me as Laila. It's much easier. It makes everyone's lives easier. And yes, I do work at Mural. I'm the head of culture and collaboration there. And I've actually known Mural for way longer before I joined. So I've actually worked at other companies using Mural before I joined. So I was a UX designer before. And I feel like I've been in a relationship with Mural for 6-7 years. And I wanted to tell you about how we have been dealing with this explosive growth, not only of our company, but of remote collaboration with other companies around us. So when I joined Mural, I just want to show you what I mean by explosive growth, because when I joined Mural in April 2018, we were around 50, 60 people, I believe. And as you can see from this chart here, we just really kept growing progressively. And then all of a sudden it just went way up. And that was in the recent months during the pandemic. And just to zoom into that a little bit more, so yeah, today we're almost 260 people. So just since June, so this summer, we went from like 190 employees, actually a bit more, almost 200 employees to almost 260. So you can see we're really, really growing very fast. And there's a reason behind that, which I am going to share. But I wanted to give you some context in terms of like why that talk title and what am I going to speak about. And in order to really welcome everybody in this company, make sure that we all feel connected, there's a lot of things that I do as part of my role to make people understand what they're doing and how we're going to continue working together. So, okay, my job title has both words, culture and collaboration, which are things that I work with. So on the one hand, it's understanding how we're going to treat each other, how we're going to make decisions, how we're going to behave, how our values are going to come into all of that. But also part of my role is understanding how we can improve our digital infrastructure so that we can collaborate better. So a lot of our tools and platforms, we've had to upgrade to new things, new processes. We're constantly updating our processes, but there's also the physical aspect to it. So we have 2 offices, which right now we're not using, but we also have our homes as workspaces, right? So that's also something that I look into improving. And lastly, this is more from my previous role that I continue doing is facilitation. So that means training our team internally into how we can work better, but also helping our clients externally to transform the way that they're working. And all of this, ties into with how we can continue scaling at this very fast growth. And based on what I've read in this article, I just do recommend people to read this article that was posted in LinkedIn. I think it was last week or earlier this week by Darren Murph, who is head of remote at GitLab. It's really great because reading it, I found that he was describing what I do really, really well. And there's a whole set of like 17 or 20 bullet points where it's like, this is why companies need to start thinking about hiring a head of remote or somebody who is going to help everybody collaborate better. And I have to say that at Mural, we were lucky in a way to think about how we could be remote first already at least a year ago or more. I think people were doing it naturally, but we were this distributed team that didn't really have a specific person for that. And then starting from January, I started helping out with that. So definitely check out that article. And as I mentioned, we are a distributed team and we have this hybrid culture, and I will explain the word a bit better, but just to give you an overview of where we are based. So the company started in Argentina. We have a really big office there. We have a smaller San Francisco office. And as we continue to grow, we've hired people from Europe, people in North America. We even have somebody in Australia, and we will be hiring more and expanding there more. But what this all means is that we are a specific type of team. So we've identified these 4 types, and we consider ourselves to be in the hybrid type of team, which is having one or multiple locations that are physical, and then having people who are remote. When I started working after university, I was in a much more traditional company, which was co-located. So it was one office in one place. Of course, there's companies that might have multiple offices, so what we would call like a split team. But I kind of went from co-located to fully distributed at a certain point, which meant that we had no office at all. And then now I've gone into this mixed type of team, and I'm really seeing how this affects the way that we interact. One thing that I've noticed over the years with research and talking to people is that it's much easier to collaborate when everybody is on the same page, or let's say like working in the same way. So if everybody is co-located or if everybody is fully remote, it's actually much easier to align and use the same processes and collaborate the same ways and document all of that. It becomes really much more complex when you are in a hybrid model, as we are. And that's what we're also learning as we scale really fast, is trying to understand how can we merge these 2 ways of working so that we can do it effectively. It's not always effective. We're learning as we're going, but it definitely adds a layer of complexity. And what I can see from all these organizations making decisions during COVID and after, saying that they're going to extend the working from home policies and all those things, is that more and more companies are going to become hybrid. We have to have that flexibility, because we don't know what the future is going to bring. So it does bring an added layer of complications. And we can see that, again, just going to visualize it a bit more. We had, in the beginning, before COVID-19, these 2 strong cultures in BA, Buenos Aires, and San Francisco. And we had some people who were remote, and now it's like everybody's working from home, but those 2 cultures are still there. So essentially it's like we're having 3 mindsets. We had the remote people, we had the US people, we had the Argentinian people, and they all bring like a different flavor to the company. And trying to put all that together has been an interesting challenge. So far, so good. So wanted to share some of the things that we have done to improve the way that we communicate and how we collaborate. So just a very basic thing that may seem obvious, but I've seen that some companies don't do it. Is that in the beginning, we only had a general Slack channel. So Slack is our communication platform, kind of like a WhatsApp for companies, for those who aren't familiar with it. We had just a general channel, and we had a general BA channel. It was very focused on Buenos Aires, but we started hiring remotely in Argentina as well. So we changed it to general Argentina, then we had general Europe and general USA. And that's really helpful. So we still have that global channel to share information if necessary, but we also have these regional channels to make sure that we're writing the specific things in those places. And the question that is coming up more and more often these days is, do we need a meeting at all? I think fully remote teams are really, really good at asynchronous work. This is something that we are working on right now to improve, meaning how can we leverage our different time zones and the platforms that we're using in our processes so that we don't always have to sync to meet. Right now, some of us still have a lot of meetings. It can become very overwhelming. And it takes time to switch to a complete asynchronous way of working, or not complete, but trying to have much less meetings. One of the things that really helps, and I did this at my previous company as well, is finding times of the day where we overlap. So I would say overlapping with your colleagues at least 2 to 3 hours is good enough if you really need to sync and have meetings with them. But then beyond that, it's sticking to your schedule and not going to bed at odd hours just because you're trying to meet with everyone else. Another thing we started doing is having our own wiki, our internal documentation around how teams work, what processes we have, all kinds of information. There's all these frequently asked questions that people can now start finding in our wiki. So we used to have it in Google Sites, which wasn't ideal. And we've recently moved to Confluence, which is much, much better. So there's also things like public holidays, making sure that all the countries where people are based are there, and informing people that if you are based somewhere, you can take the day off there. And it's transparent so that everybody across the company knows when to expect people there. And it's also announced on the day. We've also started an internal employee newsletter earlier this year. This has been really great to update everybody once a month on the current projects that are being worked on. And I get everybody from different teams to contribute and add content. So it is quite challenging to put it all together. And another thing I've seen as we've scaled is that it's become longer and longer and longer. So again, it's finding ways like, how can we shorten this, or how can we share some information in different ways? Maybe it doesn't all have to go in the newsletter. And speaking of different ways of updating each other, this is quite old now. I'm not using it anymore, but when I was part of the people operations team in the beginning, and we were about 4 or 5 team members together, we created this chart to figure out how often we would meet or update each other, and how we were going to do it. So which tool. So the top row, you have in the orange sticky notes, you have these different types of updates. They're not all necessarily done in person at the same time, but you can see the frequencies. Is it something you do daily, or is it weekly, or when exactly do you do it? How do you do it? Are we going to use a bot, for example, that is going to automate questions for us? Are we going to meet on Zoom? What other tools do we need for that? And very, very important is always explaining the why. I feel like sometimes we have sessions without even really asking ourselves, why are we, so not only do we need a meeting, but why are we doing this meeting or this update? So that was very important. And then underneath, figuring out who would have to be part of that update, or who had ownership over that specific activity. If you want to take a screenshot, feel free, but like, I think that having that kind of chart across your team is really important. It gives you a lot of clarity. It's visual. If you are onboarding somebody, they can immediately see these are the ways that we update each other and that we work together. And of course, as you become bigger, one thing we've noticed is, so a best practice across distributed teams is to have a weekly one-on-one. If you're a manager, you would meet with all your direct reports once a week. But what we've noticed is our teams are becoming so big right now, and we have so many meetings, that maybe the weekly one-on-one shouldn't be weekly anymore. Maybe you have it every 2 weeks. Maybe you don't meet with the whole team once a month. Maybe the whole team meets, once a week. Maybe you meet once a month, and then the subdivided teams within that bigger department, they can meet weekly. So it's really about adapting as you scale to figure out what works best for you. And again, as we're growing, we have more and more internal events. So we have product demos, we have onboarding sessions like introduction to the sales team, introduction to customer experience team. We really want to make sure that new hires can speak to the leaders of every team. We also have things like Backstage Pass, which is a webinar that people can get involved in. So what you see here is actually a good week for me. The pink ones are my personal events, and the purple ones are the company events that anybody can join. So this is a calendar that anybody at Mural can subscribe to. And what you see in green at the top are all the international holiday calendars that I have subscribed to, which are about maybe 6 or 7 now, so that I know what public holiday is happening in which country, so that then I can make an announcement to the rest of the company. So again, having a calendar that is accessible by everyone, announcing these this is like, multiple ways of communicating what you're doing, and over communication really helps with that. So that was in terms of like communication and collaboration, the more, let's say, serious things. I also want to share some rituals that we have and some habits that we do. And I didn't realize we had so many, and so I started collecting them in this mural. So what you see here is our all hands company meeting. It's done every 2 weeks usually. So this specific one I remember really well because it was the first time we had an all hands with more than 100 people. And what happened was that we were all trying to join the CEO Zoom. And then once we capped 100 people, nobody could join anymore. So there are all these people stuck outside on Slack and saying, I can't get in. And we realized we had to upgrade our account to allow more than 100. But it's been an interesting experiment to see how can we get everybody engaging in different ways when we're growing more and more? How can we make sure that people communicate in specific ways, in specific channels, so that everybody can be involved? And yeah, it's a challenge, right? To have this meeting and have so many people in that meeting once a month. Here's like a more fun ritual that we have. So every Friday, and I have to do one today, I can't forget, but every Friday I ask like a fun fact question. So these are ways of getting people to be a little bit more personal, be a bit more silly, or be more vulnerable. So we've had everything from debates on whether hot dogs are sandwiches or not, or like how do you put your toilet paper? Do you put the paper in the front or in the back? And all kind of silly things. But you really can have a lot of interaction with people that you wouldn't usually interact with in a very quick and simple way to stay connected. This is one of my favorite channels as well, which is the kudos channel, where we share thank yous. So what you see on the left are screenshots of people sharing how somebody did something great and what they did. But what's really nice is that we've tried to connect our thank yous with our values. So what you see on the right are Mural's values, and we want to make sure that these values aren't just a manifesto in our wiki or on our website, but actually showing how do we live by these values. And there's different ways we're going to implement that, but we had a whole workshop on values before to make sure that we all agreed these were actually our values, and then seeing them as like little hashtags at the end of the kudos is just a great way to remind everybody this is how we're doing. And we can also see which values are being lived by more often than others. This is another channel that I really like, the Don't Do This channel. So what we've noticed is that we all make mistakes, right? And we want to make sure that everybody else can learn from our mistakes. So we share what we've done wrong, what we learned from it, and we put it in this channel. There's not a lot of conversation going on there. It's just, this is what I did, don't do this. and I love the replies you get, because sometimes you get other people saying, yep, I did the same thing, and this is how I fixed it. So that's one little habit that we have as well, is sharing our mistakes. As for warm-ups and energizers, I do like to think that I've done a lot of these. So I believe that starting meetings by going straight into the agenda is a very cold way of interacting with people online. And I'm not surprised that people say meetings suck, because if you're going online and you're just going to go straight into the agenda, you're not having a moment to connect with people or kind of to loosen up. So at the beginning of any meeting, regardless of whether it's an all hands or if it's a smaller meeting with a team, I like to have a little icebreaker activity. And I have a whole blog post that I can share on that as well. But this is one example. So it was, I think with about 90 people, we had our mural open, and I asked everybody to take one of these white spaces with 3 squares. So the first thing they had to do was pick a person on Zoom without telling them that they were picking them. So just kind of like look at them and then draw that person with their good hand. So if you're right-handed, you draw it with the right hand. And you had 1 minute. And then you'd have 1 minute to draw the person with the opposite hand. And then the last square was draw the person with your eyes closed. And so you had 100 people just like laughing on mural because they couldn't draw properly. But also in the meantime, as I was facilitating, I was calling people out and saying, hey, Jim, your eyes aren't closed or whatever. So you see people trying to show me that their eyes are closed, and I would take screenshots of them and share it later. So it was really, really fun. And there's tons of these ways that you can interact with people at the beginning. And as you scale, again, you try to figure out ways of making it bigger, making it more engaging, maybe even using breakout rooms to make sure that people can connect in smaller groups, because it can become a real hassle to do it with a lot of people. This is a classic one. I'm sure that a lot of you have done some kind of social hours on Zoom by now during the pandemic. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but again, it's really important to find time, find that space to do it with your teammates. This was the operations team, so across the UK and Argentina. And one thing we've also done in the past sometimes is send the same drink and snack to everyone, or send like, I think in Argentina, we did like 6 or 7 beers, different types. We sent a whole package to every single employee that was part of that social hour. And so they could, each time they met, they could pick like the same beer, or at least they had the impression that they were in the same bar. And of course, for those who don't drink alcohol, of course, we don't force anyone to drink beer. This has been a really fun event as well that we've done, is called the Power Hour. So more and more people, as you know, who are joining the company, were saying we'd like to find ways to connect with other people in something that is not related to work. So we started doing the Power Hours, and essentially they're a 60-minute session that is facilitated by someone within the company, but we might bring external people as well, who pick something that they want to do. So it might be a mindfulness session like it was this time. So we did some meditation together. It might be a topic they want to discuss. So there was something around gender identity and exploring our gender. Today we're having one, it's a Mural Jam DJ session. So that's like an hour and a half of music, or 2 hours. People can dance, people can listen to music, whatever they want to do. So it's really a way of also doing activities, but all internal. Company retreats are also very, very helpful to really get to meet people and have a lot of team building activities. The last one we did in person, we were 120 people in Argentina. So it's that top photo you see. We had, we played football, very, very popular in Argentina, of course. We've done design sprints, and sometimes we have team offsites as well. So for example, the customer experience team, they went to New Jersey. And so we try to meet often in smaller teams as well. And of course, this year we couldn't do our usual company retreat. So we did a virtual one. This was last Friday, I believe, or 2 Fridays ago. And what we did was a world tour. So we imagined that we were all taking the same flight. So we had different backgrounds changing all the time, from the airport to different destinations. So here we were at one moment on a tropical island, and we also had people, musicians and singers at Mural, who had created a video clip by recording themselves asynchronously playing a Foo Fighters song, and then we put it together and played it. It was kind of like a little rock concert in between activities. So we had escape rooms, we had speed dating, and that was super popular, the speed dating, because so many people haven't gotten to talk to other people who joined the company. So by breaking them up into rooms and giving them prompts to meet each other, it was really, really helpful. So guess what I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot to be done as you're scaling, and a lot of ways to innovate things that you've done. As you've heard, we've had to adapt a lot of our, not only our infrastructure and how we collaborate, but also the fun things, right? That has changed a lot as well. And we also talk about this with our clients. So what we've seen is, people knew how to do visual thinking, right? If they were brainstorming or doing some kind of workshop, they knew how to do that. And they were starting to learn about digital collaboration and starting to maybe learn how to work from home. But what they didn't know is how to bring the two together, which is really what Mural is helpful for. It's like, how can you emphasize collaboration with that visual side? And here, as you can see, is the activity of Mural in early 2020. So from January to about May, or early May, is that, before COVID and then during COVID, all these companies had to ask people to work from home. And all of a sudden they realized that, yes, collaborating is hard to do, especially if you're just on Zoom and you're not all looking at the same thing and working in the same digital space. So Mural was in huge demand, and all these little dips you see are actually the weekends where people didn't work. So it's not awkward. But what we have been really good at lately with our enterprise transformation managers is helping our clients scale up the way that they are doing online visual collaboration. So creating a series of, or packages of, these enablement activities and going through this training with them, where they can understand how they can collaborate visually and online through a series of different scenarios, anything from client engagements to workshops to brainstorming to all kinds of things, and learning new methodologies as well. And this is just a quick overview of that sprint, that transformation that is happening with our clients from the beginning to the end. So it starts with smaller teams, slowly we start teaching them different kinds of ways of working in a visual way until they really master it. And this is an example. It's just a screenshot of a training that we do on Mural. So this was specifically around online facilitation, so helping others to learn how to facilitate workshops. So how to prepare a meeting or a workshop, how to run it, and how to follow up after. A lot of our training is obviously in Mural, but we use Zoom as well. And what we have also provided now is this kind of personalized education through our Imagination Lab, which is essentially, we've realized that having to learn remote collaboration takes practice, and you also need to learn how to do it in your own time, kind of through a self-paced course. So there's a lot of online resources here, and we consider it a bit like going to the gym, where you're constantly practicing things to build your own confidence in collaborating remotely. So the Imagination Lab has been a great online portal for all our clients. And yes, what I just want to wrap up with is, with all of this that has been going on, our scaling, the pandemic, and learning new ways of working, is realizing this is something that the head of customer experience told me the other day. It's like, we're working in a 20th century context, but with a 21st century mindset. So a lot of the infrastructure and the tools and the platforms that we have aren't really built yet to collaborate the way that we're ready to collaborate with, or that we know we need to collaborate in. So again, I'm a big believer in learning by doing, and I think there's a lot of new ways of working that we need to speed ourselves up with.
It's amazing, Laila. It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all these tools and techniques. And these are the kind of informations you don't see often, especially shared publicly. Laila, I just have a question, because you didn't want to make it too promotional, but maybe do you want to show what Mural is? And basically your presentation was made in Mural.
It was.
And if you just want to share your screen to just show how it works, and maybe if you're willing to do it, share a link so people can join the Mural. That would be fun.
Okay, so yes, I did speak a lot about Mural without showing people what it was. So what I was using is the actual product. So what you're seeing here is a mural. It's like a whiteboard. Imagine like an online whiteboard where anybody can collaborate. So if I shared a link here, actually, let me do something. Before I share the link, let me lock everything down. Make sure that people don't delete things.
What's actually cool is that you can share a link, just not edit, just view only. That's cool.
I don't know why it's doing this. Maybe because it's the outlines. Okay. Oh, but this is just going to lock that. Let me just, I don't know why today I'm trying to lock everything and it's not. Is it? Oh, it is. It is. It's all good. Okay. So, oh no, it's not. Anyway, it's okay. I'm going to do view only. So, there you go.
Look at this. This is live.
This is live, guys.
It wasn't prepared.
No. Let me make sure I put in the right place in Zoom chat. So if you all come in here, you will be able to browse around. I didn't give you the magical powers of editing, also because I was trying to lock things down. But and then as people come into the mural, just make sure that you're looking either at your browser or in Zoom. It might be confusing at first because I'm sharing the same thing, but you'll see there's all these anonymous or visiting animals.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so what's interesting is I can see, for example, there's a visiting koala. I can click on the avatar. Oh, well, I clicked on giraffe. I can click on somebody's avatar and see what they're seeing. So if they move around, I will move around. So if everybody clicks on my avatar at the bottom, they're going to see what I see. So you can essentially follow me. I can see 3, 4, 6, 8. Many people following me. So if you don't move around, I move around and I'm basically showing you what I'm seeing. And if I had given you editing powers, you could add sticky notes, you could add icons. We are connected with the Noun project, so all our icons come from there. So I could really look for anything, such as somebody that I would prefer seeing these days. Oh, I see not showing up. There you go. So I can bring in an icon here, and I can do a lot of things, adding images. And it's just a very quick way to collaborate together.
Mm-hmm. One thing I've noticed when you onboard someone on Mural or these kind of tools is like the first 2 minutes, it's a mess. People do whatever.
Yes.
And then because it's like a playground, so people are so excited to discover the tool, and then you manage to structure all that energy, and it works. It's really amazing what you can do remotely.
And sorry, for the people who don't know, I mentioned 2 links. I'm going to summon everybody. There's 2 links here. One is if you double click on that thumbnail, it will open the link to the LinkedIn article. And I shared a link up here to online warm-ups and energizers. So if you double click there, it will also take you to that blog post. And I think that is all, but I will just celebrate with some confetti.
That's cool.
And once again, woo!
Great, thank you so much. So we have a couple of questions. Don't be shy. You can add some questions. Maybe I will start with my question actually. Sure. My question is like, so part of your team, they are on site, and most of your team are remote, and you are part of the people who are remote. Mm-hmm. Do you think that people who are on site have a louder voice, they are heard more, or not really?
No, if you have a loud voice, you have a loud voice regardless of where you are, is what I've noticed. I think what I found interesting is it's, at least at Mural, people who are visible more often on Slack, which is kind of like our online office for everyone, right? Are the people who will post more things or communicate more. So what I've noticed is it's actually very connected to the role that the person has. So people who work in customer experience, because they're talking all day to customers, they love to talk and they tend to be more extroverted. And people who work in sales tend to be very vocal. You know, they're selling or they're training, so those people have a bigger voice, rather than maybe a designer, an engineer, or somebody in operations who is kind of more behind the scenes.
Great. Remy, you want to ask yours?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for this. So many tactical, practical feedback at once. You definitely should consider writing a long blog post or anything about that, because now really that was very helpful, and as Steph said, a lot of things united in the same place. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. You see, you know, you are building culture, and culture obviously is defined and maintained by rituals and things that little by little became automatic, so you don't question them anymore. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we saw how much you have to make this culture evolve through times and needs. And so my question for you is, how do you keep on evolving while still creating something shared and common? So how do you balance, you know, people have the same common ground, and you are able to introduce new stuff on a regular basis and change the habits? How do you do that?
Yeah, there's a lot of experimentation that goes on. So first of all, like you said, it's this organic thing, and there's a lot of rituals that I wasn't even aware of, right? So the people in Argentina may have a lot of things that they do that I may not be fully aware of. So of course, there's no stopping anybody to launch something that they want to do. However, there's also been a demand from other people who maybe don't know how, or don't have the time, or they're a bit shy, who come to me with ideas, who post them in Slack and say, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? So that's also a cue for me to say, okay, maybe let's try this out. And then we do try it out. And if it sticks, great. And then it can become a more habitual event or whatever that we do. And if it doesn't stick, then, you know, it's also learning how to kind of let go of that idea and say, okay, this doesn't work with our culture.
Okay. So do you have sort of a direct link for people to suggest things like we are doing this?
Yeah, we have a channel. We have a channel called Dear Pops, which stands for Dear People Ops. So people can post ideas there or questions. But then things come in different forms. So if we are doing an all hands meeting, maybe somebody in the all hands channel will say, why don't we do more of this? Or they will contact me directly and ask me if they can do something. And it's not just events. It can also be like, could we do these kind of gifts next retreat? Or can we, or I would like to know how decisions are made at Mural. Can you write something about that and put in our wiki or something like that? So it's interesting for me because I think some things may be obvious, and then I realize actually they're not, you know?
Yep. Thank you very much for your answer.
Sure.
We have a question from Michael.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Laila. Thank you for the talk today. I was wondering, what is the process of decision that when you pick the new templates that you develop for the app? because they're really good, and I think it influenced a lot of the success of the app. So how do you listen to the market to pick them?
Yeah, thank you for hearing that. I don't know if I'm the best person to reply. However, we now have a person who is fully dedicated to really taking old templates, refreshing them or renovating them a little bit, and focusing on that. But before, I think it was really coming in on the one side, yeah, client demands. So sometimes we'd have a client, maybe at IBM or something, say, hey, we need this. Or we would do something for a client, and then we would ask them, can we, remove your company information related stuff and make it like a more general template? We definitely have various channels, whether it's through LinkedIn or workshops or whatever, where we see there's a demand, or maybe it's even social media, and then we say, okay, this is something we need to try. And then we pass it on to the product team. Or it can be, I did a template for Mural before I joined Mural. I did something around giving feedback to teams. And they then asked me, can we make this into a template? So it might be somebody who just makes a template for their own pleasure or whatever. And then they will ask, can we make a template?
Do you need to make a template to be hired at Mural?
That is a trick, everyone.
Actually, more than that. So you said that you are growing like crazy, and you are looking for new people. What kind of profiles are you hiring right now?
Yes, good question. So in terms, I'm going to share a link here, first of all, to show everybody what we are looking for in terms of roles. So it's mural.co/careers. Please share with your networks or see if you are a good fit. It's important for us that somebody obviously has the right skills for the role. We also try to see if they're a good culture fit. So in our recruiting interviews, we will ask questions that we try to, see how do they react, how do they respond. There's no right or wrong answer, but we also see how ready they are to work remotely. So I know a lot of fully remote teams really look at how you write, because written communication is so important when you're joining a team that works asynchronously a lot. We don't have any written tests, but I think more and more we will also be looking at like how people come online. So we've noticed some people might come to an interview where, we've mentioned in advance, it's an online interview, it's in Zoom and so forth. And we've seen that they are not even set up with their webcam on, for example. So for us, that is already showing us you're not really understanding that this is the way we're going to work with our faces on the webcam. So we're looking for people who are tech savvy, who are really passionate about what we do, even if they've never used Mural before, that at least they are excited and enthusiastic about it, on top of all the other skills that they have. And we like to have people who can have this global way of thinking, because we are a very multicultural team, or who are at least interested in this multicultural vibe. And then the CEO once said he wanted people who can laugh at his jokes. So I don't know how seriously we want to take that, but that was a mention that he made once.
Great. Any more questions for Laila? No. Great. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much, Laila, for all of this. It was super rich and really amazing content. I would like a big round of applause for Laila. It was really, really amazing.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Laila, will you be part of the networking?
What? Sorry,
Amazing.
the
So see you
networking.
there.
Oh, yes. I'll see you at the networking. Thank you.
Okay. Amazing.
All right.
So see you there. And we meet in something like 45 minutes. Stay tuned.
Sounds good. Thank you.